What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or drops. Share this out. Appreciate y'all coming back. Also, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. So, heading into the bye week, the New York Giants are victorious. They have won 2 straight for the first time since last year. And the Giants are feeling good about themselves. Now, again, I know I've said this previously for the last few weeks that I've wanted them to lose, but it just feels that there's a good energy, and I get it. You know, we're 4-8, so there's not really a ton of things to feel good about. But, you know, beating a Patriots team like you should have, beating a Washington team like you should have, you know, even though this season has gone awry and the New York Giants are likely not making the playoffs, you know, you have some things to feel good about when the team gets healthy, when you get more pieces next year, even though the season, you know, to be completely honest, was a failure. You know, when the standards kind of lower and everything else and nobody's watching you, you do kind of recognize the positives and the negatives, and you're kind of just impressed by certain things that happen with this team. The emergence of Tommy DeVito, Jalin Hyatt having a huge impact on the game. Really in chunk plays, too. I think that was obviously a big part in helping the offense. The defense did outstanding again, and all those rumors, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to address my thoughts on it and, you know, what I thought of the situation, stuff like that. But the Giants will be facing Green Bay coming out of the bye week, which is a game we'll be live streaming on the Big Blue and Bronx YouTube channel most likely. I'm aiming to do a live stream on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have a good friend of mine on. Hoping for it to be Ron Effect. We're going to talk about the Giants, you know, bye week stuff, recap the first half of the season, some things you like to see down the stretch and whatnot, and all that sort of good stuff. But make sure to stay here, folks. Like, comment, subscribe, share out all the good stuff. I don't know how many more Giant games I'm going to attend with the press pass this year, but I want to obviously do it for you guys and get all the content out to you guys. I obviously asked Daboll a question about the development of Jalin Hyatt and how sensitive it is. I also asked Tommy DeVito about his pocket presence. 2 very, I will say, intelligent questions. If you guys haven't already and you would like to see that footage, YouTube, it's posted. Twitter, it's posted. But let's get right into this. So we'll start with the stats as we usually do. Mac Jones got benched after a horrendous first half. 12 of 21, 2 picks, a sack taken, 89 yards. And Bailey Zappi filled in for him, 9 of 14, 54 yards, a interception, and a sack taken. New York passing game, Tommy DeVito was sacked 6 times, but 17 of 25, 191 yards, 7.6 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown. Then you go to the rushing game. I will say, you know, when many positives a week account for this New York Giants team, there was a negative. Dexter Lawrence's presence, or I should say absence, was very much felt. And they had a good rushing game going. Not that it accounted too much of anything, to be honest with you. But Ramondre Stevenson, 21 carries, 98 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and a touchdown. And Ezekiel Elliott, 9 carries, 46 yards, 5.1 yards per pop. No touchdowns for him. The Giants' rushing game didn't do that well. Saquon Barkley, 12 carries, 46 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. Had a long run of 19, so you take 19 away from 46. That's 11 carries, 27 yards. So not much of a ground game there. And this is a New England team that was very good versus the run coming in, and they still are a very good run defense. Matt Breida, 2 carries, 6 yards, 5 carries, 6 yards for Tommy DeVito. The receiving game for New England, Demario Douglas before he got knocked out of the game due to a brutal hit put on him by Cam Brown, which that was a stupid mistake to celebrate and not pick up the football because you could have got the football back. But that's another story. Demario Douglas, 6 receptions, 49 yards. Devontae Parker, 3 catches, 42 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton had 2 catches each, and also Ramondre Stevenson had 5 catches as well, but only for 9 yards. New York receiving game, Jalin Hyatt had 5 catches, 109 yards. I believe this is his first 100-plus yard game in the NFL. So congratulations on Jalin Hyatt, 21.8 yards per reception, had a 41-yard play downfield, which was his biggest. Wandale Robinson, 4 catches, 26 yards. Darius Slayton, 2 catches, 16 yards. Isaiah Hodgins, Daniel Bellinger, Sterling Shepard, Paris Campbell, Saquon Barkley, and Matt Breida, they all had catches, specifically 1 each. The fumbles, well, it was pretty sticky. In the first part of the game, everyone was dropping passes. Sterling Shepard dropped the pass. There was a couple other guys that had passes go through their hands. But the fumbles came in too. And for the Giants, it definitely came in. For the Patriots, it definitely came in. New England fumble, as far as that goes, 2 by Demario Douglas, 1 recovered by himself, another one recovered by Jabril Peppers. Mac Jones fumbled once. It was recovered by Cole Strange. And then Tommy DeVito lost 1 fumble. It was recovered. One of them was recovered. I actually didn't get to see that fumble, so it may have been recovered by Jabril Peppers. At least I'm trying to think, because I remember the last 5 minutes of the game, I was not, actually, no, I'm an idiot, because that happened in the first part of the game. I'm like, yep, that's where the Giants blew it. So DeVito actually fumbled. It was picked up by Jabril Peppers, of course. Just trying to re-jog my memory there. But McLeod, he also fumbled but recovered it, but it wasn't really a fumble. It was more like the punt hit him, and then he had to recover it. Let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. J.C. Jackson was the lead tackler with 6 for the New England Patriots, and he also had pass deflection. As far as sacks go, obviously it was a hell of a game for the Patriots sack-wise, because Tommy DeVito was the quarterback. 1 sack, his first career, for Keon White, a quarterback hit and a tackle for a loss. 2 TFLs for Miles Bryant and a pass deflection. Anfernee Jennings, 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Jabril Peppers had a sack, a tackle for loss, a quarterback hit, and 3 tackles. Same thing could be applied for Christian Barmore. Jailani Tavai had a tackle for a loss. Juwan Bentley had a sack and a QB hit, and half a sack for Mr. Dietrich Wise and a QB hit as well. So they totaled 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 7 quarterback hits. The Giants, they didn't get to the quarterback as much as I would think, but the pressure was there. And I know we're silver lining these certain things, but the pressure was there. Mac Jones throwing off his back foot and making stupid errant throws. Xavier McKinney, he played well. 10 tackles on the day, 2 pass deflections. Dory and Bobby Okereke had 8 tackles each, so they were tied for second in the tackle spot. But Okereke had 2 pass deflections, 1 for Adoree Jackson. Micah McFadden had a tackle for a loss. Jason Pinnock had a tackle for a loss. 2 tackles for a loss for Kayvon Thibodeau, half a sack, so he moves up to 11 on the list for the year. Jihad Ward had 1.5 sacks, then a tackle for a loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Azeez Ojulari also had a QB hit, and Benton Whitley, who was signed off the Vikings practice squad, and when he made the play, I'm like, who the frick is number 48? And I looked it up, it was Benton Whitley. I'm like, I thought this guy signed to the practice squad, not the active roster, but he was in, and they decided to play him. I don't know what drew the attention to Benton Whitley personally, but Boogie Basham was actually inactive because this guy was active. So, just some facts about him. He came out of Holy Cross last year, played with the Rams, in the offseason, was with the Chiefs and the Vikings a little bit. So just a little fun fact about Mr. Benton Whitley. But the Giants had a total of 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, and 7 passes defended. Go to the team stats where it's going to look a little ugly. The Patriots had 18 first downs. The Giants had 10. The Giants had 7 passing first downs, 8 for the Patriots, 10 rushing first downs for New England, 3 for the Giants. No first downs from penalties. It was a pretty clean game, to be honest. Third down efficiency, Pats 4 for 14, Giants 4 for 13. The Pats were 2 for 2 on 4th down. Total plays, 68 for the Pats, 50 for the New York Giants. Total yards, Giants at 220, 283 for the Pats. 4.4 yards per play for the Giants, 4.2 for the Pats. You move to the red zone. Both teams were 1 for 2. Penalty-wise, Giants 4 penalties for 37 yards. Patriots 2 penalties for 13 yards. 3 turnovers for the Pats, 3 interceptions, and then 1 fumble lost by Tommy DeVito, picked up by former New York Giant Jabril Peppers. 34-06 for the Pats in the time of possession game, and 25-54 for the New York Football Giants. So let's talk about this offense. And we know Tommy DeVito still isn't perfect, right? I obviously pressed them about the pocket presence and all that stuff. Because truthfully, that does need to get better, and I get it. Our interior line play hasn't been great, and Phillips has been decent at right tackle. He kind of pushed DeVito into a sack. That's happened a lot, I feel like. But Justin Pugh has been in pass protection. Bredesen's been all right. JMS probably had his best, game in pass pro, for lack of better words. And, there's going to be a lot of short points about this offense because, again, they scored 10 points, aside from a Randy Bullock field goal. But the turnover, I didn't really stress out. Even if I was rooting for a win, just covering the game objectively, I was like, this turnover is not going to do anything with Tommy DeVito fumbling the ball because A, they're in Pat's territory, and B, the Pats can't do jack shit on offense. And they didn't score till the third quarter, and that was it. That was it from them. They didn't score. They didn't do nothing. However, Tommy DeVito, he took a lot of risks. I will say that. He took a lot of risks. I like seeing that. The throw downfield to Hyatt, multiple throws downfield to Jalin Hyatt, and reading the coverages and reading the defense really well. We thought that Darius Slayton was going to be a little bit more, part of this game if he was active. I thought he was going to be inactive, but they said, yeah, he's going to play. So, limited participation from him in terms of target share. Obviously, once again, mostly Jalin Hyatt, mostly Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson has, developed really well. Even since he came back, he's been a guy, a tweener that gets like the good yards, and he'll break some tackles, and he's a nice guy to have on the team as a second, third, even fourth receiver if you need. But I mean, the theme of the day with the offense, besides Tommy DeVito, of course, was Jalin Hyatt, and I said it so many weeks back. I said, look, this guy is going to not be consistent as a receiver because of the way the Giants quarterback play has gone. Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor and now Tommy DeVito. He's not going to get 100 yards a game. He's not going to get 50, 60, 70 yards a game. He's going to have his games where he's silent, and he's going to have his games where he absolutely pops off. This was his best game by far. 5 catches, 109 yards. At least let me get that tally right. Yep, 5 catches, 109 yards. And this guy moves the chains consistently. I can't say consistently because, again, the ball has to be thrown to him, and the Giants haven't done a good job of that. But when the ball is in his hands, he moves the chains consistently. And there was a crosser route where he absolutely juked the guy out, which was pretty fun to see. He still got that shimmy. But when a quarterback actually comes in here next year and has time from the offensive line, he makes time. He's going to throw it deep, and Hyatt's going to be there, and he's going to be like, I missed this last year. And, I that's one of the things I'm going to look forward to down the stretch. And we'll talk about it on a much bigger standpoint at the end and, of course, on Saturday. But, Jalin Hyatt with the chunk yardage plays. I said it. There's going to be games where he's silent because of the QB play. There's going to be big games like against Washington, like against the Cardinals, where he shows up and you could just feel the impact, the quarterback's taking the risk. So I would just look out for that. Obviously, it's not going to be too consistent. Hopefully it is, though. I swear to God, I want to be proven wrong on that. Again, Wan'Dale Robinson with some attention. The Giants couldn't get the running game going. The Pats were 9th against the run this season coming into the game, so they probably are at 9 or even 8. Obviously walking out of this game. And Saquon Barkley technically had 11 carries for 27 yards. I'm not going to take away, the 19-yard gain, but at the end of the day, the Giants could not get anything going. And they were 14th coming into the game in rushing, so that's going to take a bit of a hit. But Andrew Thomas on a sprained ACL, I know PFF liked what he did a lot. But, he played really well. There was some times, though, where he was giving up, a little bit of a pressure or something along those lines or a sack. But you could tell he's not 100%. And hopefully that sprained MCL kind of gets better during the bye week. They'll still trot him out against the Packers unless it gets progressively worse. And I give credits to, all in the world to Mr. Andrew Thomas because, he didn't have to come back and play. He was dealing with that hamstring injury that was, he was out for weeks. But, man, he's fighting. He's fighting like a trooper. And, It's going to be a revisionist history thing if he does go down, and pray to God that he doesn't. But if he does go down with a sprained MCL or, it gets worse, everybody's going to be like, why the fuck was he playing in the first place? And then also as well, JMS had a good game in pass pro, which I kind of, I saw a little bit because of the weakness in the interior of the New England Patriots when it came to the pass pro and the pass rush, not the running game. So I want to go to our sponsor real quick before we get to talk about the defense and some of the bigger topics. That's SeatGeek, folks. If you guys are going to a ball game, you guys are going to a concert, or you're going to a tailgate and needed parking passes, SeatGeek is your one-stop shop. $20 off your entire order with the promo code Big Blue in the Bronx. So let's talk about this elephant in the room regarding the defense. And I'll tell you the chronological order. So walking in the stadium, got my credentials, sat down, had some breakfast. Right, had my waffle in my one hand, and the bacon and my yogurt, was up there. Right, just wanted to give some extra detail, just to fluffen up the story. And I go on my Twitter, and Dove Kleiman, of course, is Dove Kleiman. The guy who's there's a lot of stories about him, but nonetheless, that's not the topic right now. And I see the headline, Wink Martindale and Brian Daboll are at odds with each other. They're at each other's throats, and per Jay Glazer, that could lead to a departure of Wink Martindale, parting of ways mutually at the end of the season. And here's what I had to say about that. And the opinion so much stays the same after this game. Me of Wink. You don't see players coming out here saying, oh yeah, I love playing for T-Mac. I love playing for Bobby Johnson. You don't see that. Hell, you don't even see that from Mike Kafka. Yeah, Kaf, he's a great coach. I love being with him. I mean, maybe it's a bias thing for me, just because I like Wink more than the other guys. But Kayvon, Dex, Jihad Ward, Adoree Jackson, all those guys came out post-game and said they love Wink and that they are playing for him. The offense sucks. Let's put it to you that way. The offense is the reason that this team sucks. Let's put that in perspective. I mean, you could argue, against the Cardinals, the defense sucked the first half. The second half, they didn't allow a single point. It was 28-7 at the half. Or it was 20-7. It was one of those, okay? Just to put it in perspective. You go to the Washington game, right? The defense kept you in that game. The second Washington game, the defense kept you in it. The Jets game, you should have won that game. Defense kept you in it. The game against the Bills, defense kept you in it. One of the most explosive passing offenses in the league in the Buffalo Bills, even before they fired Ken Dorsey. And they still are one of the most prolific offenses in the league. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis. But the Giants kept them to 14 friggin' points. But we're going to sit here and say, no, Wink is the problem. And I personally buy the story. I do, because Tony Pauline said something about it. Then it was Dan Duggan. And now it's Jay Glazer, who has a pretty good eye and pretty good sources around the NFL. So you mean to tell me that, and I don't even understand what the argument could be about. And I know Daboll tried calming it down, fluffing it up, saying, hey, it's always over the last slice of pizza or whatnot, and we had donuts. It's does he not value Wink's style of defense? And I'll get to something which I think more contributes to the issue. But does Brian Daboll want a traditional defense? Does he want a 4-3 defense? Does he want a defense that takes less risks, that doesn't blitz as much? Because that's a Leslie Frazier type defense. Maybe that's a Jerome Henderson defense. We don't know. But to sit here and, non-verbally point the finger and say, Wink is the guy. No, in no way possible is it. They played like shit against the Raiders. They played like shit against the Cowboys. They played like shit in a lot of other games, but nobody is going to sit here and come out of this season and say the defense was the main issue, the offense was good. No, nobody's going to say that. I'm going to say the offense was bad, the injuries were terrible, and the defense tried its best, and they couldn't hang on for a second longer. Like, personally me, not that I want this to happen, but Wink should be getting looks for head coach because of what he's done with his defense, right? Bobby O. I was honestly a little weary about the Bobby O signing because I'm like, this guy had one good year in Indy on a contract year. Let's see what he could do. He's turned out into a complete stud. Micah McFadden. I mean, the Giants couldn't, do anything with linebackers for years and years and years and years. They bring that guy in. They draft him in the 5th round. You can give credit to John Ogurugu, probably butchering his name, inside linebacker coach, but you got to give credit to Wink too, using him, right? Isaiah Simmons, has he been this great stud linebacker? No, but on 3rd down, you feel the pressure that he's bringing. You feel like, he's making a tackle to stop the runner from getting a 1st down, making it 4th down. You feel that impact. Dex has had career years under Wink Martindale. You could, again, attribute that to individual positional coaches, Andre Patterson. But the development on the offensive side of the ball compares to nothing when it comes to, going up against side-by-side defensive side development. Because you could talk about Jalin Hyatt, you could talk about Wan'Dale Robinson, but it's not like there's a consistency there. And I'm not saying the defense is 100% consistent, but Kayvon Thibodeau, getting 3 sack games and 2 sack games and totally turning it on. Now, I get it. I still have a little bit of a feeling of, left to be desired against the Eagles a little bit, against the Cowboys on a consistent level. And, yeah, that is part of the fact that, there's no Leonard Williams and Azeez Ojulari is a ghost. But at the same time, he should be showing up in games against the Jets. He should be showing up in games against the Patriots. He should be showing up in games against Washington because those are the bad teams. Those are the teams with bad offensive lines that you should be absolutely rampaging. Hell, everyone was talking about how Mekhi Becton was at least solid. They didn't say that after Kayvon Thibodeau got done with him. Deonte Banks, 2 interceptions. Bobby Okereke, 2 interceptions. Has made multiple interceptions happen basically because the tip to Jason Pinnock and the tip to Micah McFadden in Buffalo. So what I say is this, and we're going to talk about the defense specifically this game after this. You can sit here and say Wink doesn't adjust, this, that, and the other thing, and there's a lot of people that flipped out, after the Cowboy game about him, we got to fire Wink and stuff like that. And my opinion didn't change of Wink because we were missing our number 1 corner. There were guys that were just, not executing. And, at that point, your offense was scoring, 0 points. Every time they got in the red zone, they fucking blew up. And not in a good way. So, I've had people ask me, hey, would you keep Wink or Daboll? Most scenarios, you're going to keep the head coach. And you are confident in the head coach. I'm going to go, he's going to go find Leslie Frazier. He's going to go find Sean McDermott, even though that's very unlikely. Hell, you know what? I would sit here and say, look, if you were to fire Wink Martindale after the season and say he's not coming back, I would personally look into Ejiro Evero of the Carolina Panthers, young defensive coordinator, all these different things. But at the end of the day, Wink should not have to worry about his job security. He shouldn't. Mike Kafka, if you want to argue that, Bobby Johnson and T-Mac should. The offense has been not good for 2 years. Last year, it was solid. It was mid at best. And the defense was winning us most of those games. And sometimes stats don't really tell a story. You look at, some of the stats. The Giants ranked 28th in this category, 27th in this category, 24th in this category. Sometimes that doesn't tell the story. Sometimes it's just an overblown game. How many times does the, offense giving up points to the defense to where the defense is charged in points per game and the Giants are suddenly 30th in that category? So you can't just sit here and say, I don't even understand. I can't even begin to understand how Wink is going to be the scapegoat or should be the scapegoat. But let's talk about the defense, shall we? Let's actually get into the defense a little bit. The Giants are top 7 in interceptions. That's something they didn't accomplish last year. They're now top 10 in turnovers and top 15 in fumbles forced. So talk about an improvement, despite personnel, improvement from last year to where, fumbles they did a little bit better on, but they couldn't get an interception for crap. Like Julian Love had one. Who else had one? Maybe Darnay. I'm trying to think of the other guys who had picks. Like there was only a handful of guys who had picks. Rodarius Williams. Love had like one or two. But that's a category where the Giants have stepped up. And, there have been some garbage time INTs, but 3 interceptions against the Patriots. The interceptions against Washington, forcing Sam Howell to be completely uncomfortable. Again, that's what this defense should be doing. So, credit, defense, Wink Martindale. Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, he only got half a sack this game. He's at 11 on the season, almost at Leonard Williams' number. But he was also very impactful versus the running game, right? He was setting the edge when they were trying to run outside the tackles. Up the middle wasn't good. Raheem Nunez-Ochez and some of these other guys were getting bulldozed a little bit. A'Shaun Robinson too. So, you're not really putting Thibodeau on the inside. But when it was, cut to the outside, Thibodeau was there. Okereke was there. All these different guys were there. And Okereke and Micah, they're still tackling beasts. And he's a dog, man. Like, Okereke is a dog. You could talk about, him being a stud all season, and I give him absolute creds in the world. I give him more creds that he's playing with a fractured rib. Like, it's one thing if you're playing with a sprained ankle, sprained MCL. If you got a broken rib and you're playing at the level you are, you deserve a lot of credit. And also playing at that level when Dexter Lawrence is out, there's no Leonard Williams, you don't really have any superior run defenders. The Giants are still not great defending the run. And honestly, if the Giants had a winning record, Okereke would be a Pro Bowler. Like, there would be no question. All the Pro Bowl ads and all these different things would have Okereke on the cover. But obviously, the Giants are sitting at 4-8, and the recognition's not there. Dex, the same thing. You could probably put him into a category of Defensive Player of the Year or just a legitimate Pro Bowler. And, obviously he's not getting the recognition because we're 4-8. Deonte Banks, probably not entering that Rookie of the Year conversation on the defensive side because we're 4-8. So there's a lot of variables that go into it, and that's just how the NFL, markets, and that's how a lot of people see the New York Giants and all that sort of stuff. But Thibodeau earns 11 sack. Hopefully we get Dex after the bye because against the Packers, they're not a great offensive line, but he does have a history, Dex, destroying Packer offensive linemen, got a sack on Aaron Rodgers last year. So it's going to be fun to watch him come back, and then Okereke and McFadden playing. Hopefully McFadden is okay, got his arm taped up against the Pats at some point during the game. But again, hope he's okay. I thought Adoree Jackson also had a very good game. I thought he had a very good game. A couple nice pass deflections in the beginning. Do I think he's a Giant beyond this year? No, but he had a very good game. A couple passes were thrown behind the receivers, but Adoree Jackson made his plays. A guy who struggled a lot this season. Again, I would sit here and say he's made, a couple of nice plays, and especially in this game. And we'll talk about the turnovers, right? Deonte Banks. I mean, if you look up the stats here, I think PFF recorded it, or it was either some other guy. So he had a 54.5% completion percentage, has had that the entire season, 6.7 yards per target, and 78 passer rating allowed, which isn't bad. It's actually pretty good. But in the Patriots game, 7 targets, 3 receptions, 29 yards, a passer rating of 15.5, and an interception. I mean, this kid is just making it happen. And again, against the Packers, you're really not going to face up against a wide receiver one. Against the Eagles, twice you are. Against the Saints, you are. Against the Rams, you probably are. So it's going to be interesting to see how his development occurs if the Giants give him safety help, if they don't give him safety help, if they let him go on an island. But it's nice to see Banks have a really good game. And again, for most of these players, if not all of them, you should be having a good game against a piss-poor fucking New England Patriots offense. Okereke, second interception on the season. Almost took it back for a touchdown, but was tied up with Mac Jones and one of the offensive linemen. If he took the right side instead of the left side, he probably would have had a pick six, but creds to Bobby Okereke, again, playing with a fractured rib. And Xavier McKinney, he did have a nice game. I have to give him a lot of credit there. I haven't been particularly happy with him in his comments, which, to add on to the Wink Martindale Daboll subject, I know I talked about it earlier and really wanted to get off of it, but I think the real reason that Wink and Brian Daboll haven't been getting on as of late is we had the Xavier McKinney situation where he called Wink Martindale out in a coverage, says that the leader's not being heard. Wink was upset by that. He expressed his displeasure to X in the media, but he also kind of went into what happened. He, said, hey, I pointed this out to X. What coverage were you, not happy about? And he took a while to think about it. And then he said, nope, it's just this one coverage right here. So it was overblown by X. But the whole disagreement there and the whole tension thing, I think that's where it was building up is, Wink probably was debating, I'm going to bench Xavier McKinney for this week, and I'm going to out him to the media, which outing him to the media wasn't the smartest thing in the world, but X has been talking all season. And Davis was like, we can't have any of this. And I'm behind X all the way, which, you could probably say maybe that's a Bama connection type thing. But also at the end of the day, X has been talking all season, and if we're going to sit here and throw blame and all these different things, I think he's also talking because he doesn't have a contract extension, so maybe blame the GM for that one. Do what you can, but overall, Xavier McKinney, he had a good game. Interception, which is his first interception in like 2 years. That's crazy to think about. The last interception he had was against the Eagles in Joe Judge's last victory in November of 2021. I don't think he got an interception last year. But that's Xavier McKinney and also all the turnovers. So we'll go with the snap counts, and then we'll get you guys out of here for post-bye thoughts. Or actually, yeah, in the middle of the week, bye thoughts, if you think about it, because we're on the bye week now. It's Tuesday. So Ben Bredesen, Tyree Phillips, Tommy DeVito, Andrew Thomas, Justin Pugh, and John Michael Schmitz play 100% of the snaps. 90% for Daniel Bellinger, 81% for Saquon, and 77% for Wan'Dale Robinson, 60% for Jalin Hyatt, 54% for Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins at 35%, Sterling Shepard at 31%, 25% for Lawrence Cager, 19% for Matt Breida, 13% for Mark Lewinsky, 12% for Paris Campbell, and 4% for the newly returned Eric Gray. 100% of the snaps for Jason Pinnock, Xavier McKinney, Deontay Banks, Kayvon Thibodeau, which is really interesting, and Bobby Okereke, too. Again, fractured rib, and you got to give him all the credit in the world. Dory Jackson, 97%, 75% for Raheem Nunez-Urchez, 66% for Ashawn Robinson and Micah McFadden, 59% for Jihad Ward and Cordell Flott, 56% for Azeez Ojulari, 50% for DJ Davidson, 34% for Isaiah Simmons, 21% for Jordan Riley, 10% Dane Belton, 4% for the hell is this guy's name? I always forget it. Benton Whitley. And then finally, Nick McLeod with 3% of the snaps. Nothing for Darnay Holmes, Bobby McCain, all those other guys. So, into bye week thoughts. I'll only say a little bit because I want to save a lot for Saturday. You need to keep the locker room together, and that's something that Brian Daboll has done on a very good level. Except for the Xavier McKinney bullshit. He's done it well. They're holding this team together. They strung out 2 wins that they should have won. I know, again, for the 90th time, I've been rooting for losses, but realistically, objectively, you should win those games against Washington. You should win the game against New England, that piss-poor offense. But I think the next few games, they might treat it as, okay, we're going to go on a run. But also, realistically, you got to see what you have, right? Some of these veteran guys shouldn't be getting snaps. You got to look into the youth. Jalin Hyatt a little bit more. Darius Slayton, if you want to. I don't know if he'll be here next year. Wan'Dale Robinson, you have to take a bigger look at. Nothing really for the offensive line. Evan Neal's going to be big. Hopefully he returns against Green Bay and hopefully improves because, it's the second time he's been out with injury for a little while. Defensively, I would like to see a little bit more of Dane Belton. I know that the Giants don't completely trust him because of his ability to miss tackles and angle taking, which was something, problem of his in college. And then, after that, I would say Jordan Riley. Got to see what you have in Jordan Riley. And, Dex being out is the perfect time. Raheem Nunez-Ochez, A'Shawn Robinson, those guys are not going to be here next year. Maybe A'Shawn Robinson. I don't think Nunez-Ochez will be. But, Jordan Riley's going to be here for a few years, maybe as a backup, but you want to see what you have. And you want to see how they play against better competition. Like, you'll face the Saints, you'll face the Rams, you'll face the Packers, but you'll face the Eagles twice in the December stretch. So you'll get to see how these guys play against the divisional rivals. But that's all I got, folks. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops or drops. Appreciate you coming back. Go Giants, as usual. We'll have a live stream on Saturday. If we don't, I'll contact you guys via Twitter or the community posts on YouTube. Peace out. See you later. Stay cool.